Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is the Morning Update. We're going to follow the thread of our buddy Prince Andrew a little bit more this morning. We have two articles about him. The first is about what's going on in the royal family, and the second is about what people that are close to him, part of the royal court, other, royalty in England, what they think about him and what they say about him behind his back, even before this occurred. So it wasn't like this is like something completely out of character. People have been, talking about Andy for years and years and years about his proclivities and the things he likes to do and the people he runs with, people he accepts money from. So it's not like this is, just, because of this sex scandal, all of a sudden he's considered a moron or a dullard. He's been considered that basically his whole life by these insiders, I guess. And it's all new to me because up until this point, I really didn't even know what Prince Andrew was. I couldn't care less about the royal family. Who cares? 1776, right? That was the last time Americans had to worry about the royal family. So I was just like blown away by reading all of this stuff that the people say about him. But it doesn't shock me really when you sit back and think about it. All of these different royals are jostling for position. All of these people are in the court looking for favor of the queen and the prince, the king in waiting. So, I'm sure there's factions, different groups that, battle it out. But what's really telling about all of this is pretty much to a man or woman, I guess, his whole entire family has abandoned him. The repercussions have been felt far and wide for Andrew. His daughter's engagement party's off. There's a lot going on. And guess what? He has no one to blame but himself. He should have kept his little guy in his pants. If he really needed to have a woman with all that money, he couldn't have, bought a professional woman. An actual woman? I'm sure that there's escorts that he could have gotten involved with if that's what he was looking to do. Or there's, I'm sure there's girls that would have just wanted to be with him. Why does he have to get involved in this whole trafficking thing? Why does he have to abuse a 17-year-old girl? Why does he have to do that sort of thing? Well, I'll tell you, it's all about power and control, folks. It's all about exerting their power over the rest of us, be it with their two-tier justice system or with just their mockery by doing things such as this so brazenly for so long and thinking nobody will ever jump on board and say, hey, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you, sick bastard? You're a pervert. You never thought that was ever going to happen. And now that he's being called out on his nonsense, well, it's a big problem for Andrew. It's a big problem for the royal family. And it's a big problem for anyone who is involved in this sex trafficking scheme. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. All right, let's hop into these articles, shall we? The first one is from The Express. The headline is, Royal Feud Exposed. Insider lifts lid on crisis lunch between Andrew and Charles. Prince Andrew was summoned to Sandringham for a crisis lunch where he was read the riot act by Prince Charles after the Duke of Edinburgh also rebuked his son, according to a royal expert. Prince Andrew resigned from his royal duties at the end of last month at the request of the Queen. Now, the palace has indicated that the Duke of York will make his next public appearance at Sandringham with the rest of the royal family at the traditional church visit on Christmas Day. I heard, though, that there's going to be some sexual assault groups there, and they're going to be there to protest if he shows up. So I'm interested to see if this all happens, if he really does end up showing up with the family on Christmas to show face, or if the Queen and really probably Prince Charles tells him, hey, look, dude, you're out. You can't be here. However, last week, Sandringham was the scene of a showdown between the Duke and his brother, Prince Charles, as the Prince of Wales went straight to see Prince Philip, who now lives on his private royal estate after touching down from his latest tour. Podcast Pod Save the Queen is hosted by Ann Gripper and features the Daily Mirror's royal editor, Russell Myers. In the latest episode, Mr. Myers detailed the crisis lunch that Prince Andrew was summoned to last Monday, driving 140 miles from Windsor to Sandringham at the behest of his brother. Well, hold on a minute here. Wasn't Charles hanging out with Jimmy Savile? Wasn't he buddies with him? So, maybe that's worth some more investigation at some point. Mr. Myers said Charles obviously rushed straight to Sandringham to see his father, to seek his counsel on this crisis that is still ongoing. William had done an investiture and went to go see the Queen, and William and Charles no doubt came together to discuss what had been said by the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh. And now, it appears Charles summoned Andrew to Sandringham. They have had this showdown that was widely reported to be coming the week before last when Charles was still away on his tour. Some of the aides were frantically suggesting that this wasn't going to happen, and lo and behold, it has happened, as we were rightly saying. So, Charles was obviously furious that his brother has made this decision, dragged not only his name, but the royal family's name completely through the mud. Once again, it's all about the royal family, and especially this Prince Charles guy. I'm not a fan at all of this Prince Charles character. I guarantee you, if we look hard enough, he has skeletons in his closet as well. And totally overshadowed Charles' tour, where he was talking about very, very important issues like climate change. It didn't even get a look in because of the scandal kicking off at the time. Again, it's all about me. Oh, you raping girls, that overshadows what I'm doing. Well, I'm really despise the royal family at this point, folks. I'm sorry to my English listeners. I know that there's quite a bit of you, but this royal family, you guys got to do away with this. You have to do away with this. I'll tell you what, we'll do away with our royal families, the Bushes and the Clintons, and you do away with your royals, and then we'll all meet at the bar for a pint. Miss Gripper referenced reports in The Sun last week in which a royal source said it was all very civilized and calm, but Charles calmly read him the Riot Act and told him there was no way back for him in the near future. Andrew thought he was being treated harshly, as nothing has yet been proved against him. And that's another thing that's telling, folks, right? Like I said, if his own family has bounced on him and they haven't closed ranks around him and there's nothing being quote-unquote proven yet, well, that's a bad look. The optics are terrible for this guy. But he accepted the decision. He really had little choice. Mr. Myers continued, it's absolutely over for him. Even his own family are telling him. And I think that's quite telling, that quote, saying that he thinks he's been treated harshly. Well, that is just absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't agree with that more. He was treated harshly? No, Virginia Roberts was treated harshly, buddy, at your hands, all right? At your fat, sausagey fingertips. He's not expressing regret or empathy or willing to admit that he was wrong. It's absolutely staggering. Regardless of whether the allegations are true or not, the very fact that he didn't regret his decisions will long hang over him. Well, no, why is nobody saying it? At the very least, he's an enabler. And what is as bad as, like I've said, the enablers are almost as bad. Added to Charles and Andrew's showdown, a Sandringham insider told the Telegraph last week that Prince Philip also had some stern words for Andrew the week before. The source said it was a tense meeting, and Philip told his son he had to take his punishment. "Aw, Daddy and Mummy both scolded you." "Oh, well, that's what happens when you're involved in sexual assault cases. That's what happens when you traffic young ladies. That's what happens when you're a complete and utter moron." There was no screaming or shouting, but Philip told him in no uncertain terms that he had to step down for the sake of the monarchy. It was agreed they would have another meeting with Charles. Another source told the Sun, Philip regrets Andrew doesn't know how to lead a simple life. He thinks he's been too extravagant. Oh, well, is that so? An understatement of the fucking year. Are you kidding me right now? Too extravagant? How about too rapey and too touchy and too gross? How about that? Maybe it was that, Pops. And I'll go a bit further. Maybe if you and your wife were around more and you took care of your son, Prince Andrew, and raised him correctly and didn't leave it up to other people, maybe he would have grown up to be a decent guy. But instead, you left it to your nannies and your au pairs and whoever the hell else you silly-ass royals have running around your stupid-ass palace that's paid for by the people of England. And, you know, it's just gross. You people are just gross. The whole entire elite ruling class just grosses me out. All right, our next article is from the Daily Mail, and the headline is, Craig Brown, to servants, there's just one Prince of Oafs. And that's hilarious, because we all know that I think this guy, Prince Andrew, is a complete and utter moron. On November 28th, 2001, Giles Brandreth attended a reception at Buckingham Palace for bigwigs in the media. The Queen was telling a small group of guests how Prince Andrew and Prince Edward were keen on surfing the net, a phrase that nowadays seems rather quaint, when up behind them came the Duke of York. Her Majesty moves on, Brandreth recorded in his diary, and I say to her son, I've just been hearing how you're a dab hand with a mouse. No, he booms, I'm more of a nipple man myself. What is he talking about? Now, mind you, this is in 2001, the same time he supposedly, allegedly raped Virginia Roberts a few months after. And he's talking about, no, I'm a nipple man instead of a dab hand with a mouse? Really? What sort of knucklehead is this guy, really? After this revelation, the prince drifts off and bounds cheerily between female newscasters. 18 years on, it seems unlikely Prince Andrew will be cracking this sort of joke at a future palace reception. Well, yeah, he's not invited. Or even that he will be invited to one. And after his unfortunate encounter with Emily Maitlis, female newscasters may not hold quite the same appeal. Yeah, well, it's probably, I bet you he's waking up in cold sweats from the interview with Emily Maitlis, huh? I don't sweat. It's fascinating how memories echo across time, giving off different sounds. For instance, in her 1995 memoir, The Housekeeper's Diary, the Prince of Wales housekeeper Wendy Berry recalled Jimmy Savile dropping in at Highgrove on one of his regular visits. As he waited for the prince, he puffed on his cigar and sent great clouds of blue smoke in the air. He knew that smoking was officially frowned on in the house, but just laughed it off, saying, "Oh, the boss won't mind. He knows how much I like my cigars." So, I have to ask this, how many predators are these people going to be around? Jimmy Savile is one of the most vicious and disgusting pedophiles of all time. This was, of course, long before the sordid truth about Savile was known, which makes the housekeeper's innocent account all the more telling. Strolling around in his tracksuit with the laces of his training shoes left undone, Jimmy Savile was the most unlikely spiritual comforter for Charles that could be imagined. He would drive up in his enormous mobile home and leave it parked like some incongruous monster in the background. "Ah, Jimmy," laughed the prince as Paul the butler ushered him through the drawing room. "How nice of you to come." The pair remained shut away for over an hour. Memoirs written below stairs tend to be infinitely more revealing than those written above. Recalling the two younger princes, Wendy Berry found Edward utterly charming and polite, but Andrew boorish and rude. Her son James, who worked at Buckingham Palace, told her of Andrew's tendency to barge his way around the house, expecting him to be looked after and served for every whim. And that's what I was just talking about earlier. He definitely comes off as that type, right? The type that, give me this now or I'll take it. You can't tell me no. Definitely that kind of person. A propensity for parading naked in front of staff was, it seems, evident. On a weekend shooting with the Duke of Westminster, the prince had just gone off for a bath when the bell rang. Come in, shouted Andrew as James knocked on the door. "Where the bloody hell are my black socks, the ones with the stripe at the top?" He was standing in the middle of the room, stark naked, vigorously rubbing his wet hair with a towel. Staff were practically invisible as far as he was concerned. Yeah, because we're not human beings to him. We don't matter to him. We're just, there to help him find his socks, I guess. On one occasion, a call from one of the staff was put through to the young prince. Rather than politely telling the caller that the telephonist must have made a mistake, he simply barked, "Wrong bloody room, idiot," and hung up. Another royal servant, Malcolm Barker, also found Prince Edward kind and sensitive, while Andrew was a different matter. In his 1990 memoirs, Barker recorded how, as an 11-year-old, Prince Andrew tied footmen's shoelaces together and then ordered them about. Oh, so what are we going to hear next? He was killing cats and dogs like John Wayne Gacy? The more we read about Prince Andrew, the more I'm convinced and locked in that this guy is 100% guilty of the charges rendered against him. 10 years later, he noted that the prince was forever dragging the worst bunch of tarts up to dine with his mother, each seeming to compete with the previous for lack of brains. The one characteristic his girlfriends did not lack, though, was ample breasts. The only time I ever encountered Prince Andrew was more than 40 years ago at a large house party in Scotland. I was 19 years old, so he would have been about 17. Over breakfast, three pretty girls who were sharing a bedroom told the rest of us that the prince had barged into their room in the early hours of the morning, saying, "There's a ghost in my room, so I'm going to have to sleep in here." Needless to say, they booted him out, and for the rest of his stay, he was that stock figure of English comedy, popularized by Benny Hill, the pompous oaf whose moves make him a laughingstock. Prince Andrew was young then, and he is old now, but judging by the recent events, he has yet to learn his lesson. And there you go, folks. Just more evidence of this boorish moron Prince Andrew and the nonsense he likes to get up to. Barging into girls' rooms, standing around naked, yelling at servants. And again, standing alone, none of this stuff is damning, right? It makes you shake your head and say, oh yeah, typical elite. But it's not damning. But when you put it all together in context, it all paints a very vivid picture of a man who is obviously not a good guy. All right, folks, if you would like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. I'm going camping tonight. I'm going to a nice little state park outside of Las Vegas called Valley of Fire. So I will have some service later on tonight for the daily drop, but I do not think I will have service this afternoon. So pretty sure that I won't be doing any podcasting this afternoon, but I'll definitely be around for the daily drop. So I hope everybody has a great day. Hope you guys are enjoying your beautiful roll towards Christmas. And I hope that we get some more movement in this case today. Because remember, folks, this year, 2020, this is the year we're turning predators into prey.